Yeah, this is a little heads up before we get started. Make sure you go and subscribe. That's the call to action right there. All the Killa Kela podcast links are all in the desirable areas. SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes. Make sure it happens. Enjoy the show, people.
Killa Kela podcast. KillaKelaOfficial.com.
THTC, the UK's leading ethical streetwear label. Organically grown and ethically built garments from hemp, organic cotton and other sustainable materials. 2019 is their 20th anniversary year. Join me with THTC as a Killa Kela podcast sponsor celebrating music, social activism, hemp and street culture. THTC, eco-fashion redefined since 1999.
Beatbox created.
Killa Kela.
And we're here to talk about world music and street culture.
Killa Kela podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Killa Kela podcast, live and direct. Do not sleep, I repeat, do not sleep on my repeat. That's right, subscribe, makes you happen like a happy meal. Central London, as central as you need to be. I've got a gaggle, I've got a team, I've got a squadron inside, make some noise, squadron! That's right. The legendary, well, to be continued as the legendary Beatbox Collective is happening for these guys, and I'm so stoked to have even been a watcher of this slow development of individual superhero. Talking of superhero personality, okay, I'm not even going to introduce your names. You guys introduce your names, and also a little beatbox. You know what I mean? Your own secret weapon. Your signature move.
My name's MC Zani. I think my signature move is got to be the siren though.
Make some noise, boy! You know what I'm saying?
Got the crew in the house, yeah.
Yeah, it's the basics, live, beyond the mix. And I suppose it's all about speaking really fast so you can understand every single word I'm saying, but I hope you can edit at the edit. It's proper plan and defense performance, all the fastest teeth in the world. We're in.
No fucking teeth were destroyed in the making of those sounds, man.
Yet.
Thanks, NHS. Got me.
Yeah, hold tight. AG dentistry all day. Listen, I swear to God, it's fucking great to have you guys in.
It's great to be here.
Fucking around, are we?
Yeah, no, you made it happen. Thank you.
Yeah. How you doing?
Great. It's fucking great to be here in this environment, long time coming.
Yeah, it's a vibe, isn't it?
Yeah,
Obviously seen the journey of this whole community to grow, so it's big ups.
Nice one, Papa.
absolutely. We've been following keenly and stuff. You set them, paved the way and stuff. So here we are, right in the present.
It's here. It's here. Yeah. There's a lot of things that I think 1,000 hours do. When you hit the 10,000 hours, it's like, all right, now I'm really got shit on. Now I really look as if I know what I'm doing.
Still need to get an MOT every now and again.
Yeah. Things like that. How's the journey been for the Beatbox Collective as a whole?
Well, again, everyone individually, we all started, we actually knew each other through the beatbox scene, and again, through the limited amount of beatboxing that was available back in the day, which was yourself, hearing you on a radio, possibly seeing you at a live show, having Razel, having all these influences. But we all came together through the battle scene, and me and Zani, we used to cross paths at lots of festivals and lots of shows. He was playing with Fully Blunt, and I used to be doing a lot of hosting here and there. And then, after about 10 years altogether, we finally everyone started moving to London, and that's how we suddenly go, right, so we could spend a bit of time together doing this. And Shambhala Festival commissioned us to put together a main stage performance, and given a time and a date, we all acted on that, and suddenly rehearsals, and
it got serious.
It suddenly did. It's like, we actually have to do it, we have to turn up on time and do this, and amazingly from that one show, everyone, the reaction from both sides, from us enjoying it to audience reception, it gave us the confidence to keep doing it, and it's been quite a journey.
And here we are.
Yeah, and it's taken us quite far. Where have we been from that?
As in,
you've been to a lot of places.
Yeah.
We've been around the world. We've won the World Beatbox Championships. But then we've done some incredible things that we didn't expect to do as a crew, and how these things come about. Whether it is from doing a show and someone says, "Hey, would you guys like to do a talk and a team building session here?" You're like, yeah. Zani does a lot of musical therapy. Ballzee,
big up for that. That's this is news.
Yeah.
Beatbox therapy for people that ain't doing too good.
Yeah.
You're smashing it.
There's a documentary on the BBC at the moment, which is it's the Dementia Choir, and it's all about singing and how it's again you can regain some of your memory through sound, because sound is the last memory you have in your brain. And so again, this is incredible access, and beatboxing is this incredible vehicle because it's speech, it's language, it's communication, and again, to be able to use that for yourself and to teach others, it's a huge tool.
It's primal, isn't it?
Yeah.
In one hand, it's like the kind of thing you would have definitely got hung for back in like.
You've seen that long list of stuff. It's like having the time of your life was apparently on number 17 of like, what was that involved? Like,
stop having fun.
Yeah.
You know? yeah. Well, it's still like that now, to be fair.
Yeah,
They just have a different.
oh, there you go, it's coming.
yeah. They got drones for that shit now. But you know, on the flip side, it's like there is a kind of like basicness that it's primal, man. It's like you can like save people by doing what you do. That in itself. And I saw these documentaries like Alzheimer's and that, people like listening to music and then get in it, you know what I mean? Remembering shit.
That's incredible. Like even I say the whole sort of, you know, you can save someone's life. I mean, again, because it's language, you can come, you know, back in the day if someone fell out of a tree and you know suddenly someone was like, watch out behind you, you can say watch out behind you, or you go duck. Very quick. It saves that. So we're all controlled by tones nowadays, you know, the classic thing, you sit around and it could be like that's the thing. Or if you're on the tube, you've got the it's just a tone, but the same tone consistent. We all react to it and stuff. So it's like, and that's the primal thing of like, you know, even that binary sort of on and off, yes and no, and
that's such a good analogy actually to look at it like that. That there is so much tonality and referencing things like you say, the tube door opening and shutting. You know, that it immediately rings alarm bells. It's like. Backpack after horror. And shit like that. It's mad, isn't it? I always found as a beatboxer, when it came to like imitating sounds, and I could be really, really wrong that it's not a general thing, but I would have a sound first in my head, and then I would hear something that it sounded vaguely like, and then I would manipulate that sound to sound like that sound.
Yeah, got you. Yeah.
That was my way of doing it. How does it work for you, Zane?
Well, for me, I guess when I started, I used to play the drums.
Yeah.
So I didn't know there was a thing called beatboxing, so we all went dum cat dum dum cat, and that was my only reference to sound. And then it was initially hearing Razel that, and you, opening my eyes into like, oh my god, you can actually take it to a step further where you can make music, and that was when the switch hit for me. It's like, wow, it's more than just dum cat dum dum cat, and those sounds, those things that you hear in everyday life. It wasn't just drums, it was sound effects, it was the kettle, it was the birds going by, it was cars, lasers, guns. So yeah, it was nuts. Literally. So yeah, it's been a mad, weird journey from taking it as being a hobby and then transitioning it into a profession. I think that took, well, it's still taking years to kind of get to that level. But it's a wonderful journey.
It does do that, doesn't it? It takes time. Shit takes time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the new... and I've said it before on podcasts, like that's the new currency. Time is... My time... It's like, I know what I'm sacrificing in my time if I have to go and do something, even work, even getting paid. It's like, I'm constantly now... Not that I'm in any privy position, but I'm now conscious of, like, going away. Because time is my money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It has to be worth it.
The job's always the priority in a sense, and you know, and again, when that is something that pays bills, or again, it puts you on that next level, puts you in front of a new audience and new contacts. Again, we were saying earlier about like developing, and where do you go, and like again, it only starts from you. Whether it is originally beatboxing at a battle, whether that is just jumping up at somewhere and stuff, and again, how you say the primal thing of people going, hey, that's good, and someone giving you validation again, that's cool, you should continue that. It gives you confidence and it grows. But you know, whether it is in hosting, whether it is teaching, whether you only know until you've tried it, and again, you're only going to make a mistake somewhere and learn from it and develop. It's
that experience, you know. Well, you don't know unless you try, and once you try, like you said, you make a mistake. That worked, that didn't work.
Feedback, man, isn't it? It's just constantly like reassessing.
And beatboxing is definitely the best place to make a mistake, because I mean, you could be going boom cat, boom boom. Hey, it doesn't matter because it's still in beats. And
the amount of fluffs I've made, and I'm just like completely styled it out.
When you say fluff, that sounds like you had a really dry mouth then. It's like fluff. Oh, the worst.
Cut and mouth. God damn it. I'm gonna bring up a subject that's a little bit spicy, so I hope you're ready for the flavour. So because we were, you know, in terms of commodity and currency and what this scene has slowly is morphing into, which I think is an awesome thing. I'm querying like whether there is any money in championships, whether there is any money in battles, and obviously there's a winner and a loser. But I mean in terms of hard commodity, like is it at a stage now, particularly speaking as you guys do the champs, like is there a commodity where like in like maybe 2 years from now, your champion battler, beatbox battler, can do the whole circuit of all these different battles and championships, and then take a hiatus for 6 months in the Caribbean? You know what I mean? Is it going to get like that?
We tried to set it up like, I mean, the whole idea is putting people on a platform, and obviously we try to decorate the championships with sponsors, and obviously there's prize money. Ballzee, Zani, they've won a car. We had Vauxhall who sponsored the Beatbox Championships.
Many moons ago, yeah.
And like so, and
Definitely would have flogged that.
Yeah,
Definitely would have flogged that.
Zani was gave to his mum. Ballzee, how many? Yeah, cashed in on a few of those stuff. Like
A few,
yeah. And ironically, no one drives apart from Hobbit.
Yeah.
Designated driver.
Yeah, the best.
But nice and sober.
Yeah, but it's very interesting, like, because we actually helped develop the Mexican Beatbox Championships recently when we went over there. There's lots of different competitions with different countries have different budgets, different things, and so actually the best thing is actually we've had it for the last how many years, a lot of the competitors don't even ask what the prizes are. So a lot of people actually come in and we go, that's brilliant, like, great, you get a few grand or whatever it is at the end, or whatever the prize money is. Yeah. But again, it's brilliant when people aren't asking and stuff. Because I remember one year when we didn't have Vauxhall sponsoring, someone was like, we can't win a car, so I'm not entering. It's like, fair enough, but it's about the title and what the title brings with it. But you're right, like, can you go around to, because lots of new battles are popping up, but they're sort of smaller scale, but then there are some these guys just went to the biggest beatbox battle recently. I'm sure they'll tell you about a grand beatbox battle.
I was going to say, I think the battling thing is just one layer of a bigger pie. It's like you can do that to get recognised and get your status, but once you're at the level of status, it's up to you to where you want to take it. It's like, do you want to become an artist? Do you want to become a musician? Or do you just want to be a battler? And some people just want to battle.
Just want to battle, don't they?
And because they love it and they feed off that energy.
But do they get paid?
The battlers don't get paid unless you win. There's prizes. But
no, but like say for instance, all right, the usual kind of candidates that would be like the panel, or would be the house beatboxers, the special showcases. I don't know. You know what I mean?
The judges will get paid.
We always cover everyone, and
Judges,
amazingly,
performers.
everyone around the world. These guys go out and judge a lot of times, but everyone gets flights, and you get a standard fee, and you get your accommodation, and hope some drinks on top. But but again, the beatbox community know when. I mean, again, when there's budget and stuff, people will be able to sort of offer that a bit more. But again, a lot of people are like, yes, I'd love to judge. Oh, we didn't even say if there's a fee. It's fine. Yeah. And so there's
do it for love.
And because
we don't make any money out of it.
True story.
This is why I wanted to bring a spotlight on this particular subject, because I feel like URL rap battles, I think it falls in line with the DJing world as well. I think there's a real, I don't know, man, it's a circuit.
Well, they've been the biggest supporter, the DMC, the B-Boy Champs, with the sort of junior sister company. DMC been going for 30 years, 40 years. The B-Boy Champs going for 20 years, 25 years. We've got a 15-year anniversary next year. And it's those of Les, but they've always been huge supporters of our scenes.
It's the same world,
It's the same sort of world, but again, in that sort of,
Bro, I did like 10 years hosting DMCs, man.
Yeah.
Like, I remember going out, right, how that even started, like, beatboxing wasn't even, like, taken particularly seriously in the DJ world. It wasn't like that. But I remember, big up DJ First Rate, Scratch Perverts. I was only with Tony over the weekend, so big up that crew. And they got me involved in Perverts, and they said, yo, you should definitely come to the DMCs in New York. And I'm like, oh, New York, I haven't even got a fucking passport. I'm like, but I'm in my head, I'm styling it out. Like,
we know that one.
So I went there on my own ticket. I paid for it myself, and I managed to get on stage, and subsequently, Tony, big up Tony Prince, he paid for my whole thing, my whole shit, because they really valued the addition of like a beatbox thing, something of a middle ground between the audience and an MC and a DJ and do you know what I mean? And it really I felt like it was setting precedence at the time, and I just ended up being the host all the time. And what's really cool is that people started coming for the beatboxing as much as the DJing.
But the last few years we've been doing some workshops there, and the feedback again is, I mean, again, you can watch hours now. These competitions are hours and hours and hours and hours of one thing.
Yeah.
So just having that little bit of something in between, whether it's in between the acts or if it's a little side thing, only for half an hour, it breaks up and it shows the other disciplines, and obviously shows whether it's influence for one skill, but obviously the influence we've had from those art forms as well. Like, it's amazing.
Makes you push your game up as well, doesn't it?
Oh
Yeah. Well, again, always being surrounded by competition. I mean, again, it's
and it's the same for the champs. Like, we've had Switch come and DJ at the champs to switch up, and
we've got
some rappers come and, or we've had like Rodney P come and perform at the champs as well. So it's just showing that it's all encompassed under the same umbrella.
For real. Yeah, it's a very interesting time, isn't it?
It's great. It's great.
Yeah, I like it. There's, who was I talking to? I think it was Eclipse. It's this interesting area. It's like a grey area in technology that Instagram came, and it's almost like a scoop in history on all art forms, whether it's photography, I don't know, anything that what you thought like there was like keys to the industry.
Yes, yeah.
That's suddenly gone. All the history reference points. I mean, it's like not a lot of people. I don't know. It's like a whole different like level of platform. It's almost like they have their idols, they have their history reference points, but you know what I mean. In these two worlds, they're very different.
It's completely the online and the live world. I mean, we were talking about beatbox battles. There was a little beatbox battle a few years ago, 4 years ago, something, standing outside his place in South London. And DJ Shorty was there, and there was like 10 beatboxers all standing outside, beatboxing, having a little jam and everything. And Shorty just looked at his phone and was like, it's Biz Markie's birthday. Blank. Not a single guy or girl knew who Biz Markie was. Going, no way. I was like, oh, surely you guys should know about that. But again, people will know from what they've seen in the last year or two through SwissBeatbox.com. And again, the levels every year are insane. At the same time, it's a good thing to look at your history and look, where the origins, where these influences came from, where our influences came from, where that sort of whole. And I think a lot of people have missed out on that, as well as the new generation aren't so used to going out raving or a lot of the club nights and music things have shut down, and it's sort of up to us to sort of try and keep that legacy and keep that history alive through word of mouth, through documents online, for where it is, as much as it's like no one wants to read, everyone wants to see the latest Reeps One, whatever it is. I think it's like there's I think it's a big
I think there's two sides of it. It's like on one side it's the best thing because there's more content than there's ever been, and people are getting so good, everyone's leveling up. But I think the problem with that is that it can get oversaturated. So you're getting so much is that it's become disposable now. Like music's disposable now. You listen to a tune, you can easily, what tune is that? Shazam, I've got that tune. I can listen to it whenever I want. Whereas back in the day, you went, what's that tune? I've heard it once. You had to go to the rave to know that DJ who's specifically going to play that one dub plate that you want to hear. And
he's
then you
that
hear
DJ.
it.
He's got the
He's
shit.
got it. He's the only one that's got it. Maybe two other DJs have got it. So you go and you'll wait for that one set. And now you can. It's so easily accessible. So it's good. There's two sides to it. And
do you think that comes at a detriment? Like, say, for instance, I mean, I've always been a fairly strong stickler of like I don't put too much beatbox content of my own out. There was a time when YouTube first started. God, listen to me. But
so our MySpace is still going.
And like people, I'd be like, what the fuck? People are like, Jack. But then all of a sudden, it only took me a day to work out. Hey, wait a minute. This is good.
Yeah.
But there's a time and a place for that. I'm quite a stickler when it comes to like putting my own stuff up. Maybe it's because there isn't somebody doing it for me.
No.
It's like I'm a lot more critical about my own shit.
Likewise, yeah.
You know what I mean?
so many limited videos of myself.
It's hard to be active, yeah.
Yeah, even ourselves, even when we're together, stuff. The amount of little freestyles or something, we go, we should record that. Yeah, but we should probably make sure we get the SB microphone, do that, rig it up like this, and
Get the sound right.
We don't have it. We're in Plymouth.
The stars and the moon slightly aligned.
Exactly. No, we're always facing Mecca. Don't worry about that.
The beatbox Mecca.
Yeah. It's everywhere. So, but going back to how you say that, the timeline. The next thing is Instagram. The new thing's that. These different platforms. Same with records. Again, and vinyl suddenly made that resurgence, and I saw a line of where the CD sales was huge, and that's just completely diminished.
Yeah.
I was in a school the other day doing a workshop in a primary school. And I was like,
don't say what you're about to say. You're kidding me, yeah?
It gets better.
Beep, beep, beep. And then they're on fire and half the size. No idea. But it was the classic thing of like, I always validate every kid's sound stuff, whatever they do, even if it's silent. It's the biggest part of music. You get 1,000 points, whatever it is. So anyway, a little kid that went, like that, went, great tape rewind. He went, tape as in cassette.
Yeah, that's it.
30 kids, nothing. Looked at the teacher and he went, I went, I thought I'd take them on a different journey. I was like, cassette, like mini disc, and like, mini disc. I mean, compact disc, CDs. 2 or 3 kids out of 30 knew what a CD was, and it was just a bit of going
mental.
Seriously, I thought CD that would sell it, but it was like we've gone that far, and it's trying to sort of, still sort of educate again.
Tell you, man, I was thinking about this the other day, right? Right, so when was 9/11? That must have been 2000.
September 11th, 2003.
That's it. That's
Glad you
2003.
I'm glad you followed that with the year then.
2003. 2003. Right, so
Was it 2001?
how old would a kid...
That's 2001.
2001, isn't
Yeah,
it? Okay,
2001.
so how old would a kid be 2001 now? If they were born in 2001? How old?
18.
Beatbox math.
18.
18. Right, so look, here's my... Yeah, man, it's crazy when you think about it. It's crazy when you think about it. But these kids have been brought up on, terrorism and Red Bull.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean? Like, it's a whole different ball game, you know what I mean? Like, I guess a 13-year-old's definition of sex, drugs and rock and roll literally is wearing, a Ramones T-shirt. The boundaries are pretty tight. It's just very sad to me that like, as a medium, like, to suggest that a record plate is irrelevant when you see all the amazing technical advances that are going on with like the Red Bull freestyle champs. And, you know what I mean? It's just like crazy shit, and it's just mad that it's still not making a transition into like young people's psyches still. That's crazy.
Well, technology. So as you see with the Beatbox champs, you've seen with the loop stations, and like for years, people have been pushing the boundaries of these Boss and these Boss 505s or whatever, and it's like pushing them to the boundary. And finally, actually, Boss are now sort of like picked up on it, and they're actually sponsoring the GBB. And but it's like these guys are making some of the most incredible music and pushing your technology to the boundaries using beatboxing. So fundamentally, it starts from there, and then whether that slowly gets taken away from beatboxing, which one of these guys just went to a meeting with Voclear or something. Voclear, who again, you can pre-program your stuff in there into MIDI tracks and go boom and make a boom and design your own drums, which technically might take it away from beatboxing, but it's still the art of scat.
Bro, like the sooner the better. Right, I had this conversation like, I can't remember. Like it's, like I do all of my production. You know what I mean? I do all my beats with Killa Kela, like put stuff out, and I try and humanize area elements. But there's some things that you need to process. That as soon as that processing comes in, it's like, do I get the premiere on a beatbox channel? The chin starts stroking from there, and like, well, how do we prove to everybody that it's real beatbox?
Yeah.
And I'm like, 1, it's me. 2, it's me, and 3, I'm beatboxing on it. Like, do you mean? What do you mean?
Check out Boom Accessories. Huge track. Huge track.
But that's a really good example of people like that. That's a bit ahead of itself. But even now, you'd think now like it would be partially accepted that if it's coming from the right source, as in somebody that does beatbox, and that you can hear the sounds that are doing the right things, but need to sound like a song. Like, why wouldn't you process that as a beatbox fan?
So you've got Ed Sheeran, someone like that, who beatboxes, and it's not the most amazing beatbox, it's not the most amazing looping, but he's got a song behind it, he's got a guitar behind it, and it's the bit where it's like, people just love the songs, but they're not necessarily recognising, it started from this, and actually doing that bit, that's what captures everyone in, going, I'm watching someone make it from
that's so sick.
there. And when you can take, it's like that whole thing of like, it's like we're taken so far away from technology and all sorts, we don't write enough and everything, but that's the closest concept you have to writing an emotion with
100%.
With hand. Yeah.
I also like I like it being just a given for people that, he started with beatboxing. Well, of course he did.
Yeah.
I love that. That's the thing, isn't it? Sorry, here's yours.
I was going to say that I think we have to realise is that as long as we have been beatboxing, there's still people out there that have never heard of it before.
Well, that's mad, isn't
so
it?
it's still going to be new to them. The boom boom cat is still going to be like for some people, and it amazes me because for us now it's like surely you've heard a beatboxer, and a lot of people have, the children mainly, but still you go and they're impressed by it. You can just do White Stripes and everyone just goes absolutely nuts.
You haven't finished the third beat and everyone's going dun 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 Jeremy Corbyn. But that's it. But how, and you were saying earlier about like when you used to host a DMC, because they used to get you because it was like you were just one animation. Like again, you could go right. This is what's happening. The bar's closed and there's a Volvo registration RCX out the back. Oh, you want me to I could do something. Yeah, why not and stuff. And it's that bit where you can make nothing comes from nothing. You can make something happen just like that, and that's the power of beatboxing, and that's
Shit's cool.
Yeah, but that's how you set the way.
There's your commercial ident right there, Kels, all right?
Be the best.
Yeah. You've got it. You can do it. Be the best.
Yeah.
Yeah? Make that change. Yeah.
It's true because
man.
it's one of the most
For real.
amazing bits when something just happens. You've taken all that pressure off an entire team of a production team who are going, "Fucking the band's falling out the window, and that guy set himself on fire. I don't know." There's a microphone there, and as long as the engineer's going, "Yeah, you're good."
Real.
Yeah. They're the best moments, I think. Yeah.
I think that's a perfect moment to. Like I said, this hasn't been planned at all, right?
Are we on page 5 yet?
Yeah,
I can't see.
We're going to run VT, okay? So what we've got in the archive now is from the UK Beatbox Champs is myself alongside the mighty Reeps One and the legend that is Beardyman, and we're going to segue into that right now. It was recorded. When was it recorded?
November. Yeah.
You better have that date.
No, we don't forget.
But yeah, this is the Champs takeover. So we're going to run that, and we're going to come on the other side with Hobbit. And Ballzee inside the ride, all right?
Yeah,
Big up, boys. Hold tight. Enjoy, all right?
So here's the thing. Back in the day, I would say that every noise... Is it happening?
Yeah, he's going to get one. He's going to get one.
I would say back in the day, every noise that I was trying to make and every noise that like people of sort of my generation was trying to make, we were trying to imitate things in the real world. So that kind of ties into what you were just saying. But now, I think there's been a bit of a break from the hip-hop roots that beatbox sprung from, and I think also the idea, yes, geez. Why am
I on my own?
Yeah. But I think now, rather than it just being an imitative art form, there is a lexicon of sounds growing which don't necessarily correspond to anything in nature or to in music, and it's just no existing things in music, and it's just another means of synthesis with the human voice. Killa Kela, your thoughts?
I've never really thought so hard about it. This is awesome. I think when it comes to the sounds, and going back to what you were saying about trying to sound synthetic and try and make yourself sound like a machine. I think in the recording process, making the albums that I made, that was one of the biggest hurdles, because what you needed to achieve was defining what that artist is within the audio tapestry. It's like there was one time someone said, it's like doing a one-man band album. It doesn't work unless you see all the instruments and stuff. And to a degree, that's one of the hardest translations onto records. So what's nice now is that I think to bring that humanity into the sound is really important, because it also enables you to translate it musically. Like that Napalm album was insane. Insane. Fucking, it made me go away and go, fuck, I've got to work out some shit now. Why did you do that for? It's like, because, you've got to go back in and stuff on the top. But it's great because it's now humanized a lot more,
Yes, and I think that is the big problem with beatboxing, is that it is many things. And all these different attitudes to it. You need to layer it, you need to do the production. You can use it as part production when you're using electronic production. You can transition and use it just as a busking live performance. You never actually record anything. The issue is that because it's not a single instrument, so if you actually think about it, a lot of people approach it like a single output, like a single piece of equipment. But you have many different musical systems in one thing. So you can be a vocal percussionist, but as soon as you start singing or adding melody, that's no longer the case. And I think that's where the negative space occurs, where everyone gets confused. Because when you step out of it, there's always someone that has an opinion about what it is. And they're like, and it's referential. I saw you, I saw this other guy. I saw this other guy. Where if you could just go see a band, you don't really get that so much. People, because a band is an established sort of concept, you don't get people trying to work it out. And the amount of times I've been doing like an hour set, like solo set, and I can see the people in the crowd that have just walked out of nowhere at a festival, and they're just looking at me like this. And they're either thinking like, how is he doing that? Or his mic's not turned on. Like, there's just, because if you think about it, because most people don't think about beatboxing every single day. If you think about it, you just walk into a field and there's a massive sound system, guy on stage, huge techno blaring. You're like, his mic's off. He's not doing anything. So beatboxers have to constantly face this kind of negative space where people don't quite know where to place it, what it is. And I think that's the big challenge, is to not let that get to you. Like, you have to kind of know what it is and push through that. And as the scene is growing, all of us together are starting to help with that. And I think it's each person's innovation. Like, man, your sound design, like, from, obviously, for me, it was like Razel and then you. And the textures and the things you use, still no one does that. Like, when you're beatboxing, I can hear the fact you're really trying to have this whole full spectrum. And Beardy, after you finish battling, to innovate and build an entire system, which is still with the ethos of beatboxing. I'm a solo virtuoso and I can do everything. It's funny how everyone from the scene is able to kind of push in that way. And it's that collective sort of hive mind that we are is what's making it a really incredible thing. But as individuals, creatively, it can just be very stressful. And I think that's something we all face against. And that's kind of what my original, it wasn't a question, but what I was talking about in the middle. It's always so interesting to hear other people's sort of takes on that. So that's why, again, Beardytron, I want to hear about it.
I mean, I don't know. I sort of, like, I was coming up listening to you, like, torrenting your sets, which people did back in the day. And yeah, man, we'd just be sitting around listening to your sets, Razel, things like that, and Shlomo, you know, just being like, this is dope. I can do that. Let me practice now. And being a younger man, I had the time to do it. And it was very, what's the word? Nascent. It was very kind of, you know, there were these talent shows cropping up, and it was the first time that the mainstream was seeing beatbox. So the reactions that I think people of sort of our sort of generation, you know, we used to get you did probably more than me, because you were like 5 years before me, you were doing stuff, and like, you must have got, what? Whereas now it's like, okay. And then you have to be really good. But it's like, you just go like that, and crowds would go, like, you know, but you don't, that doesn't happen anymore. So like, you get sort of fairly average beatboxers on sort of, you know, these big national talent shows, and people go completely wild. But now it's just part of the fabric of society. I can't remember what my point was, but that's the end of that sentence.
That's the awesome part about it, because, you know, dynamically, you know, you've got to have the pendulum. There's some guys girls that don't do it too hot, then there's others that do it amazingly. But that's the balance. You've got to have that balance. You know, I was listening to the girls' conversation earlier, and I think at the end of the day, I'm trying not to be spicy here, I promise you. It's just about being great. Just be great. Just be as great as you can, and there's absolutely it's undeniable how good you can be. Do you know what I mean? Just
make beatbox great again.
Just make beatbox great again. Merchandise at the front, yeah, find a red cap and all that, yeah.
I mean, sorry, I remember now, you asked me about the Beardytron, didn't you? Yeah, no, I made a live system that attempted to take the mindset that I was using, thinking about and doing beatbox, and to kind of allow that immediacy and the ability to improvise to manifest in the real world as easily as possible. And I think it ended up being this sort of huge sort of money-losing distraction in my life. But like, it is, you know, it achieved a lot of results that I'm proud of, and allowed me to do some shows that I wouldn't have been able to do in any other way. And that hunger is still there, to be able to walk on stage with literally no idea of what you're going to do, and as soon as you have an idea, make it manifest. And I've done it with live bands, where the focus has been improvisation. I've done it with like live tech systems I've made where the focus is improvisation. I've done it with solo stuff, but I'm obsessed with improvisation, which is weird because actually a lot of the beatbox, I know you do a lot, right? Like, you do like a whole hour, and I know you've got routines within that, but like it all ebbs and flows and stuff. Yeah. But like, it seems to me that like
you truly improvise. It's different. Like,
I do love it. I do love it. But like, yeah, it seems like a lot of, especially with the loop stations. Have you messed about with the loop station?
No, I haven't touched any of that.
You got to smash that. It's amazing.
Yeah,
no,
I bought an RC505 3 years ago, and I've been meaning to use it for 3 years. I swear to God, it's looking at me. It's just up there, and it's just like, come on. And each year I get a little bit more into it and inspired because everyone's like killing it, and it's super exciting. And I go to an event, and I'm like, wow, man, the looping was amazing. I'm going to go back. And then it's like, come on.
Do not fear the loops.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's silly.
Is it your, What are your thoughts about purism? Do you think that as soon as you touch that RC505, you've crossed the line into the darkness?
No, because this is because this is a thing. A lot of people associate me with purism, but actually, like the system I built with Lyndon J. We actually went to Ableton about a couple months ago to show how we use Ableton, because it's a unique way of automating on a single track. Like, he's heard me, for years and years and years, and he would hear me acoustically. I'd hear myself, and I'd always be like, man, when I'm in acoustic, I have the most control. You have this dynamic range. And then when you go through a rig, even though it's much louder, you actually can lose a lot of dynamic unless you're really controlling that power. So being able to automate and control, if I'm doing a big build-up, he's bringing out some of the low end, and then when I drop, he brings the low end back in. Maybe he's widening the signal. There's a little bit of a reverb tail here. It makes it dynamic, and that's not purist. But this is a controversial phrase, but there is no such thing as pure beatboxing, because anywhere that you beatbox, the room is affecting it. There is no such thing as dead, dry beatboxing. So yeah, so yeah, pure beatboxing does not exist, so there's no need to stress about it. So.
Get that on a t-shirt. There is no such thing as dead dry beatboxing.
Yeah,
Reeps One.
but when I realized that, I was just like, oh yeah, of course, that makes total sense. But what there is are attitudes and like head bleeps on this kids here. It's like, and that's the thing that is very confusing. So, but when I'm doing my live show, that's not in any way purist, but I do have one purist sensibility, which is like, I love solo virtuosity. Like, I love to be in control with everything here. And every time I've tried to bring in something else, the students have to go, just for Harry, just for me, I just don't like that feeling. And it's not, if I was to make better music doing that, I would. But when I'm on stage and I have the system I've built with Lyndon and there's X amount of people dancing, I just feel so in control that is what I'm interested in. And I am going to introduce other elements, like there's a new show next year that I'm fascinated by, but it's not so much about having to do something because someone else expects it. It's just, you have to kind of sit down and think, what is your goal sound? What are you trying, if you could do anything, what would your set sound like? And that's way more sort of useful than it is thinking am I doing this right? Is it in that law? Is it in this? And I think that's what me and Lyndon have really worked on, is we when it's acoustic and we're together, it kind of sounds like this. What is the real progression of that on stage? And we were heading towards a sonic goal instead of thinking, I'm going to add this, add this, add that.
I think you said something on a podcast when we were chatting together. You said it never worked out for you because you often, it resonates with me because I feel that too. You lose energy trying to figure out what, because you've got to get an 8-bar going and then you leave. I mean, you're genius at this shit, right? Yes. So it's you're just really good at using technology to your advantage and staying within the energy moment. You know what I mean? It's actually interesting because there was a sound man. This was a while ago, right? A sound man came up to me. He was like, "Oh, you're Killa Kela." I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" He goes, "Yeah, I did your sound a little while ago. The other month I had Beardyman." I was like, "Oh, wicked." And he's like, "He had all this equipment going." And I was like, "Yeah, man." And he said something so apt. It's funny. He goes, he was beatboxing and stuff, but he had so much gear. It was so awesome. He almost sounded human. And for a second, I was like, "Hey, that's so cool." It's like you're able to adapt electronics into it to a point where it's doesn't lose energy, keeps on going. You hear the human aspects of it, but it keeps on driving. So what you were saying about moving forward and progressing, you definitely pioneered that.
Yeah, you have to find the thing that works.
I met Darren Brown at one of my shows, which is just a story in itself, man. But we were chatting afterwards, and he was like, "Do you ever sometimes deliberately lose the..." I'm not going to do an impression of him. We'll probably end up seeing this. He can probably see us right now. He's in the room. You wouldn't know it. You'll never see him. He was like, "Do you ever purposely mess up to show that it's all, to show there's no safety net?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just really awesome." No, but but he does that a lot in his shows. He'll be like, "Oh no, I've messed up the trick," and then he'll be like, Shazam, I didn't. You see, and it's a part. But there's something really interesting in the idea that if you're trying to sound exactly like the thing that you're trying to sound like, and there's never a deliberately human element, then you might be missing a trick.
Because I actually have a trick when I play live for that exact reason, which is to laugh. So I sometimes laugh through the beatboxing. Like, say it's a really good moment and I'm doing a huge bro, I'm just like just that little moment, people go, oh, it's actually all him. Like, and that's all it takes. It's a very small thing, but it's a human cue. Which is like different to like maybe intentionally messing up. Even just like pauses, like stopping, people hearing breath, like all these things are human, and it gives people like context. Because again, those people that are, they go, oh yeah, and you see it, there's like a moment, oh okay, yeah. And that's like a very easy way to overcome that. When you are on the much bigger stages, because the bigger it gets, the less human it becomes. And that's like a big challenge.
Yeah. Do you know, I would say one thing is like watching all the elimination rounds yesterday, like every single person that was doing that was probably without exception better than any of the like finalists 10 years ago. But like one thing I would say is like if you're beatboxing, just remember that it's still music, sing in tune, remember that it's a set, stay on time, all the rules of music theory still apply. Like just because you're doing beatboxing doesn't mean that you're not also doing music. That probably sounds quite condescending, but I don't know why. That's always been an observation that I've made.
Sense.
But hang on, so how long have we been talking? Because we've probably got to take some questions, right?
Yeah, I think we've got like, what, 15 minutes left?
Yeah, we should probably take some questions, right?
Yeah.
Regarding the beauty zone, because you work with 4 iPads and RC 505, and what application or what software you use on your Mac, or is it written by you?
The last system that I built was made by some coders that I paid to make the system that I had designed, because there was no way to achieve what I wanted to do with it. But it just became too cumbersome and costly to maintain, and it was like $2,000 to introduce a new feature or squash a bug that had emerged because Apple have done an update and suddenly something is unstable, and then I'd get crashes during a show, and you cannot have crashes during a show. So it got to the point where I was like, you know what, sod it. And so I binned the whole system, and I spent the last kind of few months building something which is inferior in many ways, but superior in others. So what I've now got is I've got the RC505 at the center. It's actually at the end of the signal path. And I've got all these mad effects on the way in, and I can do loads of looping and processing within Ableton. But what I can also do is just use the RC505 with all this Ableton stuff before it gets to the RC505. And now there's no bespoke code in my rig, and it's just third-party VSTs. Very nerdy answer to a very nerdy question. But yeah, happy to help. You, sir.
Hey, I was going to say, like, for a relatively small scene, like, it's amazing to have 3 people here who have innovated a scene which is so small in such different parts. But the thing I was wondering is in terms of like replication and innovation, because a lot of, for me, what I see is like the older school beatboxing was more about replication and how you could mimic things that weren't necessarily human. But kind of now the scene is moving forward, you've got people like on tracks and being far more with kind of musicality and stuff like that and technology. Like, where does replication and kind of innovation sit, and how is that kind of moving in your eyes?
That's similar to what I sort of was asking before to you. Like, what do you think about that? About like whether it's moved beyond imitation? Because actually, there is one thing I think about it is that now when you when you first start to learn, when an individual first starts to learn a skill, first you imitate, and then you innovate, and that's any individual's progression through any skill. But I feel like the whole scene has done that now. That's what I think, anyway.
I always use an analogy, right, that when it comes to like live shows, see it like a graffiti piece where you've got the crazy writing of the artist and you can't always distinguish what the letters are, let alone what the artist is. But there's always like a Mickey Mouse character or a character that is identifiable into the public. psyche of like, oh, that's that, he must be really good because he can draw that character exactly like how, you know what I mean? So I think when it comes to replicating sound, like mimicking songs and tunes, I believe that's for the live show. That's for people to engage with you and take something that they understand comprehensively, that, okay, that sounds exactly like that, that's what it should be. I think when it comes to like the more intricacies and the elevation of stuff, that certainly is part of what technology, you know, Instagram has like opened the doors, like mad talented like beatboxers, you know, they don't go amiss, you know. Once you start following one, they're down your feet the whole fucking time, do you know what I mean? So that's where that comes in. I think there's a technicality that works well with the way social media puts things. So I think it's a balance. I think they both sit pretty well together, you know.
Yeah, I think my attitude is pretty simple. It's just the same kind of attitude I think a producer would have, which is it's the case of, like, especially these days, electronic music production is all about trying to sort of achieve a unique sound. And if you are going to reference a classical instrument, it's because that's the mood you want. Like, it's referential, that's what a sample is. But if you're doing sound design and you're building your own sounds, like, of course, that is a huge achievement. And I think that is not just for beatbox culture, but as a musician of any kind, the most powerful thing you really can do is find your sound. And it's tough. It's a really, really hard thing.
Do you feel that beatbox is now separate from the hip hop community that spawned it?
Oh yeah, I always say that hip hop neglected beatbox. It's like it's not even included in the the 4 elements. So like
hip hop isn't even hip hop anymore.
Well, yeah, it's rap. Yeah, rap now. Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's subjective for me though, because I was never really a hip hop head. Like, obviously, I always just loved my electronic music and grime growing up, and I even now when people are like, oh yeah, beatbox hip hop, I'm like, no, it's more than that.
But there was always a pressure back in the day to it's only a decade ago. That's for you. That's probably a lifetime. Some of you. No, but like. There was a pressure to imitate particular musical forms and particular sounds that were real world sounds. But no, I mean, like, I'm into synthesis, you know, because it's cool. But like, the mouth is just another form of synthesis. And I think personally that there's going to be more use of beatbox sounds, not necessarily the drums even, but like the use of the human voice.
Well, each individual is a unique sound pack. So, like, based on your genetics, you have a completely different composition. Like, because of mutation, we all actually are. Each head in this room is unique. So, in theory, you can actually, each of us can generate your own unique sample pack. If for some reason you wanted to spend 10,000 hours plus beatboxing, which is not for everyone. But I always see, like, sometimes I get critique because I don't use a lot of new sounds. But I'm also super proud of mine because they're mine. And it's like I see myself as like an old school sort of synth or something. They're the things I can use, like techno drum machine, like Jeff Mills style. Like that's kind of how I see myself.
You're like a 303. It doesn't need to change. It's fine as it is.
This is it.
Techno.
Yeah. So it does shift, but beatbox sounds like packs is becoming much more of a thing.
Also, like people like, you know, Skrillex's, you know, bass sounds were very vocal, and that whole like bro step thing was about bass sounds trying to sound like synthesizers trying to sound like voices.
Yeah, you know, the kind of vocal flutes that, you know, Major Lazer and that whole kind of camp work with. You know, that's the voice as well, right?
Well, that's it. I feel like this is kind of my like sort of chat now. I'm not going to go into it too much, but people overlook their own voices all the time. And like how much they actually have a role in not just musical culture, but in society. And beatboxers that spend so many hours thinking about this, actually have quite a unique insight in that. And you start to hear that more. And you actually hear across music how this is the birthplace of all connection and music making. It did all start here.
Do you know Tanya Tagaq? Do you know Tanya Tagaq? Tanya Tagaq? Anyone know Tanya Tagaq? She's so dope. Because she's not a beatboxer, but she's like, I think it's Inuit, maybe. And she does this thing. It's like, so she has these weird, like, sort of birthing orgasm demon monster sounds that they're so crazy. But there's nothing beatbox related about it, and it's really guttural and just earthy. It sounds like it's coming from nature itself. And that's as old as humanity, you know.
Well, that's it. I've been waiting to see when beatbox culture really does become voice culture, because like if you are a beatboxer in the room, if you see something like that, you're just so fascinated because you have that empathy of that control. And you're just like, God, wow, that's so interesting the way someone is controlling, and it's this whole other way of approaching sound making. And I think as the scene grows and the culture grows, eventually beatbox culture will become voice culture. I think they will all bleed into one thing, because like a beatboxer in the present day, you're gonna laugh at this, but this was said to me when I was at Harvard, contemporary beatboxing. It was said to me, I did not say that. So modern day, like right now, beatboxing, like you get a 16-year-old new school beatboxer, he can probably do more sounds and have more control than some hyper specialist 15 years ago. Because when you see a lot of like sort of voice-based performances, technical-based performances, it tends to be like one system, one technique that they focus on. You get the sort of like Tuvan choirs, and I think beatboxers actually straddle they try to explore every single sound. And I think in beatbox culture right now, you probably have every single possibility with the human voice being pushed. And I think that's what's unique about our culture, and the rest of the world is starting to wake up to that. And that's why you're starting to see all these different types of innovation.
I mean, I was just chatting to Dilo yesterday, and man, he reminded me of myself when I was a young man. Because like, I remember like having this dream of like, I was like, I'm gonna be the first person to get a #1 with just my voice, just literally just recorded in one take. And it took me about a year to be like, nah, it's not gonna happen. But Dilo's got the same dream, and I think he can do it. I think he's the first person that I've met that I think has enough vocal range and enough crazy genius level mad talent to actually pull that shit off. I think he might do it. So if he releases a single, you're gonna buy it, obviously.
Yeah, we need so hive mind. Come on.
Yeah,
please,
yeah.
support.
Okay, let's take another question. You, sir.
With beatboxing being this like strange combination of like primal aspects of the voice plus this like futuristic exploration into our gateway to communicate with other people, our voice, you know, we speak language, then we're like breaking it down and we're looking at it in a different way instead of the format, structured sentences and explaining in words and blah blah blah. As we explore that, you know, you were saying you can get lost in limp roles forever and like, oh wow, there's strange sensations by bright pressure on this way. Like, there's a world over here of this pitch and stuff. What do you think is next as that world meets the digital world of like, you know, Ableton and these people have been using Ableton for years, but they still discover new like networks and possibilities. Those two worlds of programming, you know, we're breaking out language programming into sound exploration in our head and in our body, and then that being the programming in digital. Like, what's, you know, 10 years on, what's
You're asking what the next thing is.
I'll tell you what I think. I kind of like, good question. I kind of like ham-fistedly tried to sort of address that just a second ago, but I'll try again. I think with the range that the human vocal tract is now capable of, I think and especially considering that at one point there'll be an RC606 come out, which will be even more capable. And I think what you're gonna see, I hope what you're gonna see, is the human voice and mouth, whatever, you know, whatever's making all those sounds. It will be a legitimate instrument. Not that it isn't already, not that the human voice isn't the one primal instrument from which all other instruments come. You know, like our ears are tuned to, our brains are tuned to hear the human voice. Like the reason why babies crying is the most annoying sound in the world is because your ears and your sound processing equipment in your brain is finely tuned to hear that sound. So the whole sort of range of an orchestra and what we perceive as pitch is tuned to the human voice, pretty much. So I think you're going to see this kind of confluence of these two different diverging factors where you're going to see synthesis. You've already seen synthesis trying to sound more like a human voice in Skrillex's bass lines and stuff like that. And to an extent, if you've got like a brass instrument or a violin or a reed or whatever, these sort of emotive qualities of those different instruments are tied to a human voice and the kind of qualities that you get from a human voice anyway. That's what it evokes. But I think you're going to see these different diverging factors actually start to converge. And I would hope that you find the human voice becoming a legitimate instrument taught in schools, maybe with a grading system. Like,
Oh, yeah,
why
that's-
not?
Have you heard of Berry Wham?
What?
Okay, so Berry Wham are a French crew.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're like, so they're absolutely astonishing. I think it's a case of obviously there's the new school techniques plus production and whatever your musical content is. But the two factors in validating a subculture, which was said to me, is education and culture. So as it develops and becomes more established in terms of being taught and like even in terms of scoring and notation, like when it can be taught and when the culture is developed, this is the kind of the DNA of something being established. And I just think on all fronts it's expanding, and you can't really ignore that. So I think to answer the what is the next thing, and this isn't a very good answer, but you're just seeing it fractal out massively on every level. So for me, it's just going to be a case of skills, production, personal content. That is going to keep leveling up. Like, I wonder who is going to be the James Brown of beatboxing. Like, it's like, and also prodigies. When are we going to really start getting prodigies in the culture, in the scene, when you're getting 7, 8-year-olds that are remarkable in the same way you get with drumming or other sort of virtuosic, like, instruments. So it's not an answer, but I think we're not too far off of just this absolute cross-pollination across voice culture, all the different pieces of technology, everything that we're, like, pushing up. It's an exciting time. Another question? Oh, you want to?
I was just going to say, yeah, it's going to be a steady, sort of exponential, maybe not exponential, but it'll be a steady ramping of, because like, yeah, right now, like I had people coming out to me yesterday being like, oh man, I was watching your videos when I was 6 and now I'm competing, and I was like, oh, I'm so old. But like at the same time, like it's nice to know that every 10 years or so, the leveling up is so profound that, you know, yeah, God knows what it's going to look like in 10 years, even for the human voice. But your question was about sort of the interface between digital and vocal.
Maybe even to make it a bit more refined, like, do you think there's an exponential growth, like continuous, like, whoa, constant factualizing responsibility, or do you think there'll be a point where, like, we do all the beatboxing, we've got a digital bit, we can still make tunes to the level that, I don't know,
What? Can I tail off on that question? It's the same thing, because I think the exponential thing, there is a danger, and you see it in like DMCs, for example. You get scene versus DJs that kind of like leave that behind and all that thing. Do you guys think there is a danger in sort of culture? So in terms of the way it's like battle, a scene can actually strangle a culture, because you do see that sometimes. It's less so now because it's grown. But do you have any ideas on that?
What kind of like eat itself?
Well, yeah, so in DMCs, I went to the DMCs like 2 years ago, and I was so bored. Like, so, I'm sorry, like, I know, and I'm a beatboxer geek, like, guy, and I found it, there was moments I'd be like, yes, and in all honesty, it happens at beatbox events as well, because you're so horrifically over-familiar, not because there's anything wrong with that, but how, and your question is like, what is growth? Is it exponential? The only way I think it could not be is because of a scene kind of eating itself away, and they're being sort of, it's like becomes too inbred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's kind of by default, isn't it? Because a lot of, well, like we were saying earlier, people imitate sounds, but now you get like beatboxers imitating beatboxers, you know, and then they start eating into themselves and they're kind of replicating. That's part of the organism. So that's an interesting thought to kind of.
But I mean, that goes back to what I was saying before about musicality. Like, if you're a beatboxer and you're battling, and your noises are tighter than
We have
anyone's.
1 minute, by the way.
1 minute.
It's a good time cue there.
45 seconds. Yeah, look, it's music, and remember that. And in regards to whether or not a scene is being overly incestuous and self-reflexive, or whether individuals in that are going to burst out of the scene, you know, if you are just thinking, will this appeal to somebody who doesn't care about beatbox at all, then that's probably a healthy attitude. Like, if you're both impressing those in the scene who know every single routine for every single beatboxer, but you're also going to impress someone's mum who doesn't care about beatboxing, then you're good.
Mums are really good filters. They really, really are, because they have no idea, and they're like, oh, that's a bit interesting. Then you know something's good. I said it before in my interview, best friends as well. So yeah, it's about make sure you're staying inspired, having a bigger data set, not just being with the scene, looking out. Yeah, I really like your point, just not to forget that it's music. Like all those rules. There's so much music out there. I speak to beatboxers all the time. So what music do you listen to? It's like, oh, I just really listen to beatboxing. I'm like, what? It's like,
yeah, one of the reasons why D-Lo is so nuts, I mean, no, he's not the only incredible beatboxer, but he's one of those particularly blows my mind at the moment. He's got like 100 songs. They're not just routines. He's singing them. They're actually songs with hooks and choruses and stuff, and that's really important. You know, if we're going to be... if beatbox is going to be a scene that continues to produce these like breakout stars, then it's just about that, remembering that it's music, it's good. Imagine you're doing it on a festival stage to people who couldn't give a toss about beatbox, and then you will be satisfied, the heads and the non-heads.
Now it's time for Killa Kela's final thought.
I agree with everything they say. Just make great music. Just do the best you can do, be the best you can be. Utilize every port of social media and just get out there. There's more songs than there is people out there, so just make your voice heard. That's what I'm saying.
And thank you guys so much for coming to this. It's
Thank
really
you.
nice to be able to do it. And thanks so much to Zani.
Make some noise for Reeps One, Beardyman and Killa Kela! Making UK history right about now. Such a pleasure. These three legends in the place, man. Yes.
This is the sound of the Killa Kela Beatbox Body Part Sample Pack. Over 120 loops, samples, and one-shots for your music production. Exclusively on Splice.
AG Dentistry. In my line of work, not only does what I do with the mouth get reviewed, it's also my instrument. And it's beyond important to me that my teeth get the professional service they deserve. The AG family provide expert dentistry, whether it's NHS or cosmetic. They're the finest in London. Head over to agdentistry.co.uk for more information on treatments and prices. AG Dentistry. So I hope you like that. I hope you was feeling that. That was me, Beardy, and Reeps on a conversational tip. For an exclusive, the UK Beatbox Champs, which is part owned by these gentlemen that are sitting aside from me. The Mighty Hobbit.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, and Ballzee.
Yo.
Yes. The Beatbox Collective.
Yes, sir.
The other half of, actually not even a half, like a quarter of like... How many of you are actually in the group?
Seven officially.
Yeah.
But we normally roll out as a 5, so we have experimental, Bellatrix, and then Toby, BFG as well. But we have many forms, many different...
Many honorary members.
Yeah, many honorary members as well.
But I kind of like that. I like the fact that you kind of bring an extra... There's always somebody that isn't normally there that comes in.
Yeah.
It's a very kind of collective vibe, isn't it?
That's the thing.
Yeah,
it's kind of a good thing and a bad thing calling us a collective, because you have the flexibility, but then you're like, and then it's like, we've got this sick gig and blah blah blah. It's like, I'm doing a tour.
Sorry, I mean,
stop part. What? Doing some workshops for 6 days. It's like, but we're going to Costa Rica.
Yeah, we've got a gig. You do a lot of touring. You do a lot of travelling, don't you?
This guy does.
Yeah. Do a few different shows, like a cappella and dance shows and stuff like that.
It's very good. And you're always a lot of comedy stuff and
I've started doing
funny guy. This guy.
Funny guy. I started working with a comedian called Jared Christmas, Kiwi comedian.
Nice.
And we have we created a few years ago a beatbox comedy game show, which is just us basically fucking about and embarrassing people.
Good banter.
Yeah, he is the banter king. And then we realised, so he's got 2 young kids, and they couldn't see the show because Daddy swears a lot, and then we realised that actually it works amazing as a kids show. So now we have, smashing it as a kids show.
What de-swearing it or throwing the swearing in?
Well, he learnt the hard way and swearing at the kids show. No, he didn't. But we just, it's the same show we do for adults but without the swearing.
That's cool.
Exactly the same.
Pretty much. We have some extra things, and we just found out that kids just go for it.
Yeah.
Like in the adult show, we're like, oh, come and have a go. Like we do a thing where I use a loop station. We sample the audience to make a song, and it's like, come and have a go. It's like, oh no, I'm alright, or whatever. But kids are like, I want to do it. Like the last show we had about 50 kids queuing up to want to make noises and get involved.
That's cold, yeah.
So
the
yeah,
Ute them.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking to Ute them, so you and me go back, like you and me, you go back, isn't it?
Go
like,
way back.
You was in my street team.
Yes.
That's how real it was.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. The young Hobbit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Very young, from Gloucester.
From Gloucester, yeah, that's it. That's right. That's how I remember you. I remember you at Emoji.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Shit.
Yeah, it's an imprint. It's just there.
Yeah, it's been a mad journey, man.
Yes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Serves you right.
I'm still here.
No, you genuinely, like, I swear to God, hand on heart, like, if anyone was to be questioning the validity of Hobbit, it's like, my G's been there from fucking dot. Like,
He's been a mad one.
I mean, like, on it like a
seen the whole journey.
Yeah. How'd you feel about that?
Old. I think I'm feeling increasingly old, but in a good way. In like a kind of, now I get to look over everyone in a sense, or the new guy. I mean, like me and Paddy Ballzee, we went out to Grand Beatbox Bar this year as a team to battle.
How'd that go?
It was good, man.
Yeah.
We represented. We got through to the battles. We came fourth, but hey, we showed the young guys what's going on.
You show up. That's the thing, innit?
Man.
You know what I mean?
But it's interesting going back because like we both individually we've battled each other, and obviously as the collective we did the world champs, and I think that's the last time we properly battled. I've done little things in between, but that was like 2015. The world champs, and then we were just like, let's do Grand Beatbox. Fuck it, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, man.
And then 2 months went by, and we're like, oh, the thing's closing to enter, and we're like, yeah, you know, we'll do it. And I think it got to midnight on the day of the video thing, and we're like downstairs in my room. My girlfriend's asleep upstairs. We're like, yeah, we got to get this video video done. And we did it, got through, and and the event was sick, obviously. And but it was just going from that perspective of like experience of being on stage. Battling, one thing, but then the experience of just performing and like doing the rounds of terrible gigs to amazing gigs to festivals to all these different things, and then to being back on a battle stage, which is a completely different like energy, mentality, like your presence, the way people look at you, rather than you being there as like, this is our showcase, this is our thing. It's like a completely different perspective. So for me anyway, going back to that, and then you know, we battled Kocha, who's D-Lo and Frosty, who are like they're two-time UK team champions. But they're the new guys, so like, you know, they're early 20s, and you know, we're like in our 30s now, and it's just like being on that journey and seeing these guys come up and then actually battling them. It's an interesting dynamic, and it's
The interesting thing for me, from the outside looking in, is it as an entire organism. Like, there's a fountain of youth when it comes to beatboxing, man. Like, and I don't, you know, we all take a sip of it. It doesn't feel like that. There's a huge chasm between. Like, that's the right word, isn't it? There's no space between you and the younger guys. It just feels like it's just you're in a different. Like you say, it's a pedigree. It's a different thing.
It is.
Like you've got the hours of putting in doing shows.
When
maybe, you know, the 15 to 18-year-olds wouldn't.
And it's interesting, like speaking to some people, that was a thing that I suppose not really realising on stage, but then some people speak to and they're like, yeah, you were through before you even made any noise just because of your presence and how you were. And it's like, we're not, you know, you're not trying to do that, but that's what sets you apart from certain individuals and in that.
Yeah, and when we started beatboxing, like, to try and get recognition, you had to go to open mic nights and you had to enter battles and do all this sort of stuff, but especially perform. But you couldn't upload a video onto, or like get Piponi to post it to a Beatbox, then you get your love straight away. You know? You had to like open mic, free gig, and all that is just building character in it.
Do you think do you think there's a lacking in that?
I guess I'm really thankful for that when I started.
I think it's great,
Yeah, like I always say this, like when I first started, I was trying to download like a freestyle of you on Radio 1, and I think it took me like maybe 36 minutes to download like a 12 megabyte clip to listen to, you know.
LimeWire did it again, baby.
because it took me, you know, 5-6 years to learn how to do like, you know, I think that's why it's like a bit cleaner than some of the other like guys that learn it in like the space of 6 months and then move on to lip rolls, move on to the next sound, you know.
When I think of Ballzee, I do think of clinical cleanliness.
Definitely, 100%.
That's certainly
100%.
yeah. And I think that's set precedence for a kind of new way of thinking, like the breathy, because I work very much in breath and trying to give people the idea that it's still as human as the industrial sound it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But you moved it on a bit more. There was a real clinical cleanliness to it, which I think is still it's still a part of.
Yeah.
Maybe not the battle side of things, but it certainly is in terms of, you know.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, man.
And I think it's like you say, in terms of the younger beatboxers who are starting quicker because of the internet and because they're getting into battles more, so they have like really dope ideas and they're coming up with some ridiculous stuff that, you know, is taking us to work out certain patterns longer because they've got the references. But when it comes to that clarity, they're learning in a different way, and a lot of them are learning through battles, which is great. But then when it comes to being an artist, how does that translate? And it makes me think when you look at these big battles and you see these beatboxers who are, you know, strong on stage and there's such a presence.
Yeah.
But is it just in that moment? Is it just in that 1.5 minute?
See.
Rather than having like
20-minute set.
A 20-minute set, yeah.
Maybe they just weave the 1.5 minute rounds into each other seamlessly, and it's just.
But it's but I think it's interesting at the moment because there's so many beatbox battles happening. Like back in the day, there was like UK Champs started 2005.
Yeah.
And then there was Bilo with the World Champs, and some other countries had national battles. Like I think Germany started just before us, and then the French Champs been going time.
Had that, yeah.
So there was the national battles, but now there's like fucking so many battles.
It's
happening.
insane, isn't it?
It's crazy.
That's what I'm saying. It's like surely that you can just like do a whole like tour of just the champs and then go fucking re-up somewhere for the rest of the 6 months.
I think a lot. You know, you see a lot of similar faces, like, you know, people like Skilla and ZD who have, you know, earned their stripes to earn that judging spot, and they do a lot of these battles and showcase the rounds. So I'm sure it's possible, but I think also from an artistic point of view, you want to do that plus your own stuff. So maybe, you know, it gives you that opportunity to be like, I'm judging a battle in Korea this week, so I can try this showcase I've worked out, or I'm judging one here, so I can try this. So maybe, you know.
Do you think there's an oversaturation of like people doing just the bit battles? Like you suddenly become that guy for doing that?
Maybe. I mean, it depends how you. I think it becomes from the individual of how they want to do it. Some people love judging. Yeah. Some people love showcasing a beatbox event, and obviously, you're probably going to get a lot more love at a beatbox event than necessarily a normal public show to people who aren't, you know, that knowledgeable about beatboxing.
Yeah.
When you go to like, you know, you see, I think it was like the Chinese champs and some of the showcases there, and they're going fucking.
They're going
mental.
They go in every time.
It's incredible as an audience, but even you know, say in the background beatbox battle, like. Everyone's so into it there.
Yeah.
So I guess from a performance point of view,
it's like a rave.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's mad.
But then, you know, you some people want to take that to another dimension and go into normal shows, and, you know, however that is, and break into that world as well. So
yeah, I think Beatbox does that. Beatbox does that.
Yeah. Very
or you could just do like Vine and just be a 5-second beatboxer forever, like some people do, and they've got millions of followers.
Yeah, Vine crew all the time.
Like, what was it, 7 seconds? Or it was when it first started. 7-second beats. And, yeah.
It's amazing how like I coin it. I mean, arguably, the only closest comparative of like people doing something that they're doing it for genuine love is skateboarding. Like, and there's a thing about skateboarding. It's like, you know. Although you don't want to admit it when you're seeing it, you're seeing maybe like the 100th try of a trick that was done.
Yeah.
God knows how many times video-wise, and that one thing went up. And what happens is, your mind, if you're a skater, and also if you're a beatboxer, you're hearing this thing that this person's doing, and we all know it's as good as a selfie. Like, you just do it until you got it right. And then that shit goes out, and then people are like, wow, I got to do that. And then the levels inherently just get higher and higher and higher and higher. And like, we don't realise like the levels and bars that we're setting ourselves.
Yeah, totally.
That
skating
shit's
as well
crazy.
now. I remember like, 'cause I skate, and looking at what they're doing now is insane, man. It's like when I was playing Tony Hawk's back in the day, and you could do a trick, you'd be like, I don't like this game, it's too unrealistic. And now guys are doing it, you know, on a real skateboard. It's nuts.
It's insane. That's something to be said with beatboxing that I'm definitely like seeing. Because I do it, man. I'm like, what was I saying to Beatbox? It's like I know the format and the way people are doing things. As beatboxers, we have an ear and an eye to knowing within our sound libraries how people do that shit.
Totally.
You know what I mean? But then there's another thing of like, how did they get to that fucking thing in the first place? Like, you like I don't know. It's just that's the human interest in it.
Sure.
I love that.
And I guess that's why it's becoming more popular on the internet, and you know, like, all these other people posting it, like Unilad, all these kind of things, who are, you know, reposting these videos, and that's where the interest comes in from the general public who don't know about beatboxing, because they're like, that's levels up from anything I've ever heard before, and I want to know how that's happened. And then as beatboxers, we're watching it because we're like, that took fucking time and dedication to get to that point of ridiculous, like, technical ability, or whether it's, you know, certain sounds they've made and or tracks they've made, you know. But
then there's a personality side of it. Who's that geezer, the American guy that's doing all the kind of beatbox stuff, and he goes
Verbal Ace.
Verbal Ace, right?
He's in the UK at the moment.
He's in
London.
He was here for a day.
Okay. Well, you know, we've seen it before. We've seen it before.
Yeah.
But what I love about him is the personality.
Yeah, man.
And it says to people that you don't have to be like technically advanced. This is all about your contribution to the bigger thing.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Totally.
And I really love the fact that he's doing well with a thing that I guess what it is people never tire of the novelty factor. Not that I'm saying his art is novel. I'm just saying like the Police Academy effect.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you know what I mean?
I was going to say that. Yeah.
Totally.
It's still charming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
It's interesting from a platform perspective and where it pushes it. Like, he's a perfect example of that. Of like, he's just doing what he does very well, and he's awesome at that. Like, his whole busking thing is incredible in terms of just engaging people, and he's just like, you know, almost like a beatbox clown, where he's doing all this incredible stuff and animation and blah blah blah, and just enticing people rather than just going hard on crazy beatbox technique, which you know 99% of the general public and whoever is not going to want to buy into unless they're beatboxers. And I think from that, it's meant that he's, you know, been picked up by people like Will Smith. He just posted a thing today doing a project with Timbaland. It's like the levels of that it's insane. And you know, I think the hope and the hope of it is that people are going to see that and then want to delve into the scene more.
That's what it's all about, bro.
Totally, man.
You know,
and even the people that say, you know,
the window.
You have those guys that are like, keep it real 100% all the time, only do hard beatbox techniques, this, that, and the other. When they get on stage and the sound is not that great and it's not going their way, you'll hear them throw out like a novelty car noise for like 20-30 seconds or a helicopter or something just to get the crowd back on the side, you know. And it's a similar thing, just on a bigger scale, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. I've always, you know, the mimic of something that people can relate to, whether it's a full song or just a sound. It's like these are the key. These bring it back to people's psyches. It grounds them again because they're not lost in a kind of haze of like technicality. Just the crazy stuff.
It's like what we were saying earlier about, like, you know, adverts and stuff. Like, you did the Fruit Pastas adverts, and then like it in a form where people could appreciate it and it wasn't too over the top for anyone. And I think, in a sense, beatboxing has been represented quite well in any commercials and adverts I've seen, where it hasn't been just for the sake of being there. There's been a purpose, and I think it's a great way to show, you know, beatboxing in that respect.
It opens a door to a bigger thing. Yeah, that's very good. I like that. What else is happening? So what's going on with the collective? What's going on?
What is going on? Wow, we've all been a bit busy in a way. I did a tour at the beginning. I was doing a theatre show at the beginning of the year. Ballzee was in India and then Australia, and Zani was everywhere and anywhere. We're all quite, like we were saying before, the collective is loose in the respect that we appreciate that people are individual artists, and we're not going to get mad that, you know, they want to do a tour or do shows and whatever. That's how we roll. I mean, it's annoying when, you know, when stuff comes in, but it is what it is. But we came together a few weeks ago and wrote new material for the first time.
Band's back together, innit?
Band's back together, son.
It's good to be back. Is there a moment when you're just like, fuck.
Yeah.
Felt like Zane's got that gig. I don't understand.
Yeah.
It must be all that all the time. Come on, beans.
Zani always does the gigs.
Which one of you guys gets the most gigs out of the collective? Come on.
We all do very different things.
It's like we were saying before, because
this is all very diplomatic, people.
Do you know what? Because we grew up together in terms of beatboxing, for like the past 15 years. We've all done shows. Like we all met each other at shows, whether it's festivals, and then when we've done shows, it's normally been, oh, they want to book 2 beatboxers, so me and Zani will do a gig, or me and Bass 6 will do a gig, and Ballzee will never do the gigs. But you know, however it is, and
share gigs as well.
Yeah, and then
Zane,
share
just
gigs.
check whether that's, is it still recording all right? Sometimes the phone can be a bit of a dickhead. We all good, yeah?
18.
Yeah, nice.
And
good to know.
And now, yeah, it's always good to know. Otherwise, we're just talking to no one. And then it's kind of got to a point with us anyway. We're quite diplomatic in the sense that if I can't do a gig, I'll be like, oh, it's a workshoppy gig where I need to be like loud and on point, full of energy, so I'll give it to Rue. Or it's a workshop in a school, so I think it'll be wicked for that, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
so we delegate the work. Whether
Still leaving me out.
Yeah, I am. And Ballzee just takes all the gigs. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, so it works really well for that kind of thing, and we're all, and whether it's if we can't do a gig or whether we don't want to do the gig, we know we can pass it on to.
Because that's the thing. It's like I've seen a couple of your shows, and like they're all they're hinged a lot on your own individual capabilities.
Yeah.
There's some sounds that one person can do, one level that people can do.
Yeah.
You know, this is all different, and it's a hodgepodge of like a load of things. It's almost in a DJ turntablist way.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, what if someone can't do it? Do you have to rejig the set?
Oh yeah. So
that must be like the number one headache.
Yeah. So the thing, like a prime example, last August did the Edinburgh Fringe, and I was out of the country, so Beatbox became Hobbit for the 2 weeks. He smashed it. But that was the thing where it's like, oh, we had the because it's all tracks that we've done in the show that we've done, we had the knowledge of knowing, right, Hobbs does this bit, he's got this bit here, we can do that, yeah, but I don't really do that, so I'll change it to this. So it's that knowledge, but then when it comes to certain things like, oh yeah, we're doing this show, but Zani's not available, it's like, oh, all right, that's cool, we're rejigging, and then we're like, oh, wait a minute, in the hip-hop mix, he does this, and he does that, in the garage, he does the bars at the beginning, and it's just working out. So now I think, in terms of doing like a 3-man show, I think we know we're quite on point with knowing certain bits, and we're knowing certain routines we can't do, or can do.
Sometimes there's moments like, someone will have like, you know, we're going into Missy Elliott, it required, and someone's not there who does that, so that it gets to the point.
He's actually quiet.
No one knows other than us, so it's alright. But
it's all trial and error, you know. And then it's also like I was saying, we've written new songs, written new tracks, and it's like cool. And then we have to get the other members in and find the other parts, and it's exciting, but it's also work, and it's
labour intensive, right?
Yeah, but you know, it's like it's all for the greater good in a way, and that's how we've. As a group and as a collective, that's how we've got to the point where, like, our show at the moment, our Watch Your Sound show,
fine-tuned, yeah.
We know all the bits, and we know what we can, you know, who can does what. And I think it's for me, it's interesting when we're doing shows on certain venues, and they're like, cool, so who does the bass? And it's like, well, Ballzee does it. Oh no, but I do it on this track, and then Roots. It's like, we all do. Oh, so who does mainly vocals? We all do. So for us sounded, we apologise. We love you so much, but we apologise for how annoying it can be.
You know the truth.
Yeah.
Soundman.
So it's working that out. But then, you know, and it's compromise sometimes. So like, obviously, Ballzee is the sub bass king, master, god. Yeah. And if he's not at a show, then we know that element's going to suffer a bit. But we know that we've got the range to able to fill those in and find different bits. So it's fun. It keeps us young, doesn't it, Ray?
10 more years. 10 more years.
It is actually fun though sometimes when that happens, you know.
Yeah, I think it keeps you on your feet.
Like,
but it's sick, and like even what year was it? 2016 UK champs. We had Alexinho, the current world champion, who's absolute legend. Shout out Alexinho. he was over judging the Bristol. We had an event in Bristol, and I can't remember when Ballzee was away touring, and we have a drum and bass mix, so old school D&B mix, and we're like, yeah, we'll do that, and it's like, oh, we're gonna miss those a bit.
The video's up on YouTube as well.
Yeah, the video's up on YouTube.
Oh, you can check all this shit on YouTube.
And Alex was like, I know it. We're like, what? And then Alex literally filled in Paddy's bit.
All my parts,
it's
do
like
everything.
Scary, but at the same time,
lifesaver. And it was like, yo, they smashed it. So it's exciting when those kind of things happen because you're like, oh, people are listening, and there was.
Do you think, like, just on that same subject? Because I spent a lot of time, trying to sound design my own shit, so it wasn't so easily replicable. Like it's ammunition, right?
Yeah.
I don't mind people jacking it, that's fine. Yeah. But do you ever get like that feeling of like, oh yeah, he just did that?
Yeah.
That was my. I thought what?
I think out of anyone, Paddy's probably got that the worst in terms of certain routines and patterns and stuff.
It's
but not in a malicious way.
No, that's it. It's like it's inspiring almost, especially when you see people copying your routines literally from start to finish, and they're not even putting anything new in. There is like a tiny bit of like, but then you're like, man, I'm a pasty white dude from Huddersfield, and someone's just uploaded a video in Indonesia, a 16-year-old kid going, and I'm like, yeah,
you can't knock that.
Go for it, man.
Yeah. It's for real, because like, where in the world would that ever have happened ever? Like, this is
exactly
that's mad.
Yeah,
that's mad, and it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Music is love, and you have to spread the shit.
Yeah, man,
the truth.
Or else we'll just all be bitter. You know what I mean?
Everybody's stealing my sounds.
Yeah,
kind of
damn it. Yeah. So on that note, we're going to spread the love on the podcast for Tip. Listen, man, you guys. I mean, I wanted to make sure everyone was in. This isn't just an audience. This is the full collective. Not full collective, but the majority of the collective.
Majority.
Yeah.
Majority rules.
Yeah, just to show that these guys are totally loyal to the project. This is what they do. They're here together. I mean, before the camera even came on, this lot were like chirping birds to each other. They weren't even talking. They were just doing sounds at each other. These guys, the live and breathing us for real. So big up, guys.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having us on.
Pleasure.
Yeah, man. That's it. Teas in a pot, beers in a fridge. Yeah. Killa Kela podcast live and subscribe. Do not sleep. I repeat. Do not sleep on my repeat. Beatbox Collective, hold tight, and big up Beardyman and Reeps for the VT. All right.
Big up.
Yeah.
Stay lucky. Peace. How was that then, boys?
Sick.